Hello, everybody. Laura Eisenhower here. I am joined by my dear friend, George H. Lewis, today. Hello, George. It's so good to see you.
Oh, it's really nice to see you again. It's been way too long, Laura. I've missed you.
I know I've missed you too. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with him, but George is an astrologer. He's an artist. He's a visionary. He's a sound healer. I mean, he's so many things. And man, we have a lot to talk about. The upcoming full moon in Taurus.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be a very interesting one, this full moon, because it's playing a dance with Three-Eye Atlas.
Yeah.
So
Talk
the
to us about
energy,
that. Yeah.
well, I mean, I think the thing is with Three-Eye Atlas, I'm quite interested in some of the sort of the myths and the timings of it, and it's very peculiar. None of us fully understand it for certain, but it came in to the human orbit, into the consciousness, um, in July this year when it was first witnessed relatively close to Jupiter. And then it came in and it had its perihelion next to the sun last week. And now it comes round. It's still in the solar beams and in the beams of the sun, but it's going to come to a close conjunction in a few days' time with Venus. And this coincides with this full moon. And remember, the full moon is in Libra, isn't it? I'm sorry, the full moon's in Taurus, but Venus rules Taurus, and currently Venus is in Libra. So we have a very strong, like Venusian connection at the moment. So I'm
Right.
quite curious to see what this is going to do for relationships across the board, personally, but also on a collective level, looking at the relationships, for example, in politics. I mean, I was also fascinated to witness that the Trump peace accords were rolled out exactly as Three-Eye Atlas made a conjunction with Mars. That wasn't lost on me. The fact that, we are reconfiguring, we're reorientating the archetype of Mars. We're literally putting water onto the old permanent war schedule of Babylonia.
Yes. Wow. Wow. I mean, right after the full moon, I mean, Venus moves into Scorpio and Mars is in a sextile with Pluto.
Yeah.
And then we've got this Mars opposite Uranus.
That's going to be really interesting, isn't it? The Mars opposite Uranus. How
As
do
Mars
you?
just entered Sagittarius, opposite
Yeah.
Uranus, that's dipping back into Taurus. So,
Yeah. Yes, because I mean, right now, on when does Mars go into Sagittarius? It's like on November 5th or 6th, something like that.
Tuesday,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
tomorrow.
And so we also have this conjunction, which is going to play out until next year between Mars and Mercury because of the retrograde cycle of Mercury. And I feel that's something I'm here in New York City. I've witnessed there's a lot of, I don't want to say anger, but like short words, a little bit of frustration. The Mars Mercury, especially when Mars is activated in Scorpio, it's going to be quite tense, isn't it, Laura, in the sense of people can go into disagreements quite easily. I think it's quite important for us to be quite mindful and to really observe ourselves before we go at 60 miles an hour.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Mars in relationship with Pluto in a harmonious sort of sextile is helpful. But this opposition to Uranus, Uranus and Mars, yeah, I mean, it can be very volatile.
yeah,
Uh, Uranus is really pushing, an awakening, but very often it shows up in the form of crisis and
yes,
shock and upheaval. And sometimes people don't know how to kind of channel that energy into, positive change. Um, Uranus is known for rebellion and it's very unpredictable. And if it doesn't kind of find itself in alignment with the higher mind, which
mm,
also is under the rulership of Uranus, the Mars energy can be very impulsive.
yeah. And
Like, yeah,
there's a lot of sort of also I feel with Uranus in Gemini, it moves particularly fast because obviously Uranus is moving back now, isn't he? He's in retrograde. He's stationed, so he's slowed down and he's moving back now into Taurus for his final push. And maybe that's an indication in the coming months of really a shift in the financial system. Do you
right.
sense that in a way
Yeah,
with
definitely.
Uranus coming through there, those sudden unexpected changes? especially also with Venus being very prominent because Venus rules finances too. So it's going to be
Mm.
interesting to see, isn't it, how that plays out. I mean, I can't speak for everyone else, but I've been waiting for a while for the new quantum financial system to be made manifest. And of course, I feel genuinely looking at the astrology, and I'm looking forward to exploring this with you in the coming months. But there are two big, big indicators. This is the first one of Uranus going back into Taurus for its final push with a strong Venus playing a part and with 3i Atlas giving more energy to Venus towards a more benefic quantum financial system to be played out. And then I think the activation of that could happen around the winter solstice because we see 3i Atlas come closest it does to planet Earth during the whole cycle. And then finally, I'd say the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at the 0 point of Aries in February is a good indication of the new Earth being born, new structure, Saturn, in a totally new reality. Saturn doesn't like to be in Aries, but it's a whole new system. I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, yeah, that's
Yeah.
I definitely feel that.
Mm.
It's a whole new system. I mean, Saturn has been very repressive to, Neptune. Now that they're getting along, it acts more as a container for the multidimensional, for the anchoring of heaven on earth. Whereas before, with a lot of the Saturn squares and I don't know, just the afflicted Neptune and that we've seen in the past, with the outer
Yes.
planets, you know, when Saturn's in this much harmony with, you know, Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus, Saturn is no longer, this gatekeeper, I
Yeah.
feel. And that's a huge shift. It's interesting though, because Venus is very afflicted. Venus has been afflicted. It's got the square to Pluto,
That's right.
square to
And she's in and
Jupiter,
she's in
opposition,
Scorpio, which she doesn't like to be,
right,
right?
entering Scorpio, opposition to Chiron. And
Yeah.
it's almost like the morning of letting go of an old system, people are, yeah, kind of maybe hanging on to something that they've identified with so much that there's a little bit of a recognition of how obvious it is that
Mm,
it's time to move forward.
mm.
But in that, comes a bit of heartbreak. I mean, I think some people aren't quite ready or they don't know how to trust because we're trusting something greater than the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Sedna's involved in some of these configurations as well. And
Yeah, where is I'm not, remind me where Sedna is on the map right now on the cosmological map. Is she quite close to Uranus? Have I got that right, or was that? Because I don't have her on my chart at the moment, Sedna.
um yes, so Sedna is opposite Mars and
Yes,
conjunct Uranus.
that's right. Yes. I think,
And there's noise in the background and it shouldn't be there. Do you want, should we just,
is that you? Is that your noise? I can't hear it.
he's on the phone with my son.
Yeah. What is also interesting is you talk about the hierarchies. I like that because if you look at the hierarchies of the heavens, we've got the Saturn Neptune conjunction, and Neptune obviously is the modern ruler of Pisces. So Saturn's bowing the knee in a way to Neptune. And then also Jupiter's exalted in Cancer. And currently we have a very strong Mars in Scorpio. And I've always felt that Saturn is at his weakest part in the whole zodiac, at that end of Pisces and obviously through Aries. And so, as you said, and putting it in a different way, the Saturnian matrix, the Saturnian Babylonian control system just doesn't have that power right now in the cycle. And that's where I feel so optimistic, especially with the energy of 3i Atlas, which I am very intrigued by because I read it. I certainly don't see it as a comet. I definitely see it as a galactic, positive, uh, energetic, helping us, we humans, the people in our ascension process. It isn't lost on me that it picked up its initial power through Jupiter, the great benefic, and then it picked up more power with the sun, and now it's connecting to Venus in the coming days and showering that Venusian power when Venus is at home in Libra with a full moon in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. That to me is quite exciting.
Yeah, gosh. I mean, I haven't really integrated the Three Eye Atlas into the astrology, so I'm really glad that you are. And um, where does that show up? How do you see where that is? And I mean,
Well, I mean, I've been following the three eye atlas like so many of us have, and I'm, quite interested in the symbology. So three eye atlas, three I is the ninth letter of the alphabet. So in some ways, this is reminding me of the Tesla quote of if you want to find the secrets of the universe, you think in terms of what is it, frequency, energy, and vibration, 369. So I'm just exploring that and the fact that I mentioned a moment ago on October 3rd, when the first initial deal was done with Hamas under the peace accords of the Middle East. That was exactly when the Three Eye Atlas came closest to Mars. It's almost like a rebuke to the old Marshal. And so to me, it's really lining up quite nicely that this interstellar object is here to help us, the people. It is not something to be fearful. Of course, Saturn wants us to be fearful. Saturn wants it to be a comet. Saturn wants it to be something that's going to destroy us, like a Hollywood movie, with the predictive programming. So I'm just sensing that the other thing is also Venus and Arcturus come together on November 5th. You were talking about the full moon, upcoming full moon. Well, it forms a conjunction, three-eye atlas, not just with Venus, but with Arcturus. That to me is beautifully potent and auspicious.
right. Yeah, my gosh. There's so much ponder with all of that. And when we were referring to Sedna, I just want to tell people,
Yeah.
um, Pluto is going to be trining Sedna and Mars opposing Sedna conjunct Uranus. And Pluto is like unlocking the underworld of Sedna's memory, and it's allowing frozen pain to become creative power. And there's something very interesting about what Sedna holds. Uh, she was a maiden betrayed by her father and cast into the Arctic Sea, and she sank. He cut off her fingers, and from those severed pieces, the sea creatures were born. She became a goddess of the deep, ruling over marine life and the balance between humans and nature. So her story is one of betrayal, descent, and transformation into a greater sovereign form. So I just feel like, with Chiron opposite
Mm,
Venus
mm,
and everything that you just shared and the three eye atlas, that
mm,
literally
mm.
the planetary configurations are healing something very deep in connection with abandonment wounds and our relationship with the waters and our
I,
surrendering to the vastness of um
I can I just jump in? I like that a lot. I never thought about the Sedna Pluto conjunction in that sense because
well,
in some
it's a sextile.
sextile because of well that's very nice because that's a beautiful flow of feminine energy coming into
I'm sorry,
work.
trying. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, right. So trines and sextiles are positive. So that's a beautiful other example of the Gaia, the Mother Earth, the Sophia that you speak of, being brought back into the collective consciousness once more. The fact that we've got Pluto, which already does that in a different way, that plutonic, that transformative death and resurrection, married with that oceanic because we're learning so much about water, aren't we? I mean, Veda Austin's work, I've been quite obsessed by that. And water carrying memory. So the Sedna archetype is that feminine, all knowing and all powerful. And the fact that the chopping off the fingers creates so much genesis after that destruction for me is very beautiful.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right?
Yeah.
So it represents the unthawing of frozen light, the reawakening of feminine intelligence. So yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how the planetary configurations are are in this process of its own awakening that we're receivers of, or we're holders of. We carry these myths forward within our own being as we navigate this. So I always feel like, with the three eye atlas and some of the projections of fear upon it, there's always some kind of psyops or false flag to distract us away from what something might represent. Can you talk to us about that and how um, a lot of the planetary alignments and favorable developments that are happening in the cosmos can be easily covered up by this sort of other version so that we don't experience and integrate it?
Mm. Well, I mean, I can try. I mean, that's totally your wheelhouse. I mean, I think the thing about Saturn is in every single sphere, which is part of our great awakening, none of us, I speak for myself, realize just to what degree we human beings have been so imprisoned in a reality of utter control. And that utter control is through the four elements in the sense of not just physical earth control, but emotional control, the waters, mental control, the air, and spiritual psychic control, fire. And that enslaved cord is finally being broken, and it's messy and it's taking time, and some of us have sought to shed that cord faster and more effectively than others. But I mean, I think I'm only just beginning, and yet I've been on it for 10 years. Is just there's so much. It's mind blowing how much we're learning. I mean, I'll give you an example. It was only recently that I've finally figured how this is very North Node in Pisces, how to make B12 vitamin from light frequency, from cobalt blue glass, and putting it in the sun. And I've started to drink distilled water in this manner, and it's having a quite a profound effect on me. So the whole Saturnian matrix is crumbling because every single one of us is exploring new pathways, and that collective knowledge very quickly builds in that individual knowledge that you, me, Tom, Dick, and Harry build upon becomes a vast treasure trove of collective knowledge, and that's the great ascension. So I think Saturn, in some ways, the old Saturn is just withering on the vine, and the new Saturn, which we see expressed in February through the conjunction at the 0 point of Aries, which hasn't happened conjunct Neptune for well over 6,000 years on the 0 point, the world axis. And so for me, it just astrologically, very calmly looking at data, uh, the Babylonian London matrix of whatever you want to call it, the Jesuit Khazarian combination is falling away.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Saturn conjunct Neptune in harmony with the outer planets is a whole new vibration of, Saturn flipping it from um a control system to a container of
Yes.
and I mean it's the architect as well, right? So and
Yeah.
it rules time. So
Yeah.
now, cosmic and natural law are flowing with this, law of structure instead of it being a blockade or an inversion that seeks to control and dominate. And in people's personal charts, these kind of aspects are dissolving those Saturn squares or where dark Saturn has impacted, one's life. And so, people are recalibrating, their relationship
Mm,
with
mm,
authority and finding
mm.
their own internal authority. And it's so beautiful because Saturn, Neptune, and Aries is literally the emergence of the divine human.
Yes.
Um, and wherever, people aren't
Yeah.
like ready for it, they might be hanging on to old dogmas. And
Right.
that's where I see the afflicted Venus, where um, the tension in the heart, is like you have to let go. The pain almost becomes the breakthrough because it just can't hold on any longer. And the release is, oh my gosh, it's all within. It's all within um ourselves. And a lot of people are going to struggle with or have more identification with, the heartbreak aspect or the victimization of the awakening where, they feel victimized by it. You
Yeah.
know,
And totally let down. I mean, vast
yeah,
amounts of
like
grief.
everything that they thought
Mm.
was true is not. So they're almost a victim to other people that are thriving, and they're still throwing swords that, oh, you're gonna be damned because you're not following this book or this Bible.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's amping up a lot of aggressive energy, which we're seeing also with that opposition. It's just
Very much so. I mean, you're seeing that with the Mars, definitely. That's that aggression coming through. But I always say to those people as they come online and they realize we've all been there and we all, to an extent, are still. This is a collective awakening. We have to do it together. And so it allows people like ourselves and all our community to lean more into patience and compassion for where people are at. Because at the end of the day, this planet can only really succeed when the vast majority of us are able to journey together. I mean, I do also feel it's a bit like King Lear and any great epic, is Saturn always is at his most deadly, at his last gasp. And, we're experiencing the frequency wars now, the 5G apocalypse, the distortion, the chemicalization of the biosphere. It's all been ramped up, right? It's all been really heated up. And yet, the Christed crystal light is also being heated up as well. The polarity has never been, for me anyway, so greatly seen, expressed, witnessed, experienced as now. Babylonian Baphomet really do show themselves to us very clearly. And yet, more and more of us show that wonderful white Christed light as well. So, false light, we're just seeing the whole frequency of it all. And to me, that's very exciting rather than being scary because it's all being revealed. Nothing's hidden anymore. Or I should say, less and less of it's hidden.
absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's going to be hard for, people to dismantle the conditioning that Saturn represents, because Saturn's also conditioning, social engineering, how outer authority has implanted rules and restrictions that we abide by versus the rules and restrictions that we want to place upon ourselves, and so that we can thrive, so that we can have boundaries, so that we can have limitation, serve us, like
Yep.
not overindulging or not allowing people in your space if they're not a frequency match, so flipping all these inversions around is a personal, victory, and each one of us wins the war on consciousness from within. And when we claim that sovereign space, um yeah, it's going to carry you forward on a beautiful timeline. And anybody else who's, struggling, like you said, that compassion, that Neptune
Yeah.
Saturn is, I mean,
And,
I
and
just, yeah.
and maybe also the suggestion, the advice, however you want to phrase it, might be, and I feel I have to give this to myself as much as to anyone else, whereas we are totally the student as much as the teacher, if not more so the student, is um, the ego. Because if we are attached to a belief system and we see ourselves in that definitional space, that's where we go wrong as a species. And I can think, when I was younger, I defined myself through my belief systems, and I just don't anymore. I really don't. And that's part of that Pluto in Aquarius making that trine now with Sedna, as you said earlier. It's beautiful to let it go. God, that sounds like that Disney song, Let It Go. But, but it's very, very, very cathartic. I mean, it's almost like the Kundalini gets reawakened when you finally just let it go, because the body releases that trauma.
Oh, definitely.
And isn't that really the whole point of the full moon? I mean, I really, the full moon in Taurus is, because Taurus is fixed Earth, it's the heaviest of all the 12 zodiac signs elementally. It's to release that trauma of the past, the old way we hung on to a world that no longer supports us. It's not, and we don't need to go into it intellectually. It's just not there anymore. The new earth is what we're birthing into creativity, what we are, the dreamscape, the imagination, the North Node in Pisces that you and I love to talk about is that sense of the divine cosmic coming in, the Sophia. Why don't you speak about that? I am curious how that relates in a way to our releasing of all the trauma in this full moon.
Well, it's that I think people are afraid of punishment or not doing something right, or the punishment reward system. That outer authority of Saturn, that moves through all these different structures. Religion, politics. Just it's just the way we function. It's our responsibilities, and with that breaking down and Saturn losing its grip on us, it's almost like, is this okay? Because you might have been a child that was shut up or abused or traumatized for just being you, for just holding your light, for just saying something, for speaking your dreams, for not following a certain protocol or a certain discipline. And so to release that, from one system is to release just this imbalance that has not allowed integration of polarity, that has been very suppressive of that divine feminine, that intuition, our capacity to be empathic and be in the fullness of our creative imagination and multidimensional self. Because the shadow side of Neptune is self-undoing and addiction and illusion and just being lost in it all. But when we appreciate that, and now that it's grounded with Saturn, it's like it becomes a navigational tool. It becomes something we respect.
Yeah.
Saturn becomes the guardian, and Neptune becomes, it's like it's changing these
No, it
archetypes.
almost becomes a spaceship.
Yeah, it's like instead of Saturn being the controller, it becomes the container, and instead of
Yeah.
Neptune being um,
Delusion or
delusional, it,
separation.
it becomes the resource of the creativity that moves through the womb and manifests new life. So the tree of life template, the branches open, right? The polarity of North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo, to me is like the roots and the earth, Virgo, right? But the mind, knowledge, where's that knowledge coming from? Neptune, the creative imagination, to be able to plant seeds of our dreams, and instead of where our creative imagination has been siphoned and harvested into scenarios that steal from us and that causes disease, so that the branches in the tree is withering and dying way too.
Absolutely.
Why do humans age so fast? Why is there so much
Yeah.
disease? Because that Neptune energy has been held in this archonic sort of lower astral.
Yeah.
And now that Saturn is in harmony with Neptune, it's no longer keeping us from the fullness of
The rigidity is gone. So there's a
rigidity. Is
potential
gone.
for
It's
us to
now it's now a
flow.
structure that can
Yeah.
be a container, like the Grail. I mean, this is the reclamation of the divine masculine and feminine integration within ourselves. That Sophionic energy is the mother reclaiming her body. It's us
Yeah.
reclaiming our waters, and not allowing any contamination to overwhelm. And contamination comes when Saturn uh, punishes, blocks, condemns, and creates rules and restrictions that puts a dam up. I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining this well,
No,
but
I think you do. That's absolutely right. And maybe the other thing is just drilling in a little bit on the full moon in Taurus. It may bring silver into focus because you mentioned the feminine. I'm always interested in, a lot of talk on gold and silver. Well, a lot of talk on gold. Well, the feminine archetype is the silver, and we have a full moon in Taurus, and the moon is exalted in Taurus. And Venus is the ruler of the supermoon, and Venus is in a T-square with Jupiter and Pluto. So questions around leadership is going to be on the menu, but also the financial instruments that we on our planet have used, the demonic financial instruments. We're all familiar with the creature of Jekyll Island and the Federal Reserve now. And so I think there's, with Pluto intensifying this, there's big questions around the system now, and Venus rules money. And I think that this is going to be coming up in the next few days. I mean, not that it hasn't come up already. The feminine aspect of a system which is much more coherent um, and cohesive for humanity.
yeah. Well, abundance that's connected to what you value and what
Yes.
what you're what your worth, what you feel is worth your while, um, instead of ah, gosh. And then this was so interesting about how, what's collapsing Uranus moving back into Taurus is helping us to revisit our
Yeah.
relationship with abundance and
Yes,
creativity.
exactly.
And then when it moves into Gemini, it's going to begin to break down information and bring it closer to truth. And Uranus always upgrades us.
Yes.
Um, I feel a Taurus new moon, it's like
Full moon.
we value is going to come more from our soul missions and our inner callings versus um giving that away for something else to profit.
Internal. It's having to
More
go
internal.
inside out, from the
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah. I mean,
It's where the integrity is, you see, the authenticity is maybe what you're getting at. No longer is it just superficial, external. It's a deep resonance, isn't it? Of Gaia, of Sophia, of Venus. Because, I mean, Venus, when she's really well positioned, she's the Empress card, and she sits with such authority and authenticity in her abundance, but she wishes to share it. And it's also the cardinal grand cross that we see with Venus opposing Eris and Chiron. That's also interesting. Eris, I'm fascinated with that archetype, the sister of Mars, the feminine archetype again. She was the one who didn't want anyone left out from the party. It goes back to the Trojan War, of course. And she wasn't invited. She's Maleficent in Disney. And she's that archetype of no one will be left out. But it's strong feminine energy and it can go dark. But ultimately, it's about we will not be excluded. And the feminine has to be in balance with the masculine, especially when it's conjoined Chiron and it's squaring Jupiter in Cancer and it's now to sign Pluto. Square, hang on, I forget this. Pluto's at 0 degree Aquarius. That's right. So it's now to sign Grand Cross, isn't it?
yeah. I just feel like the healing of like the mother wound or any like heartbreaks connected to relationship. Um, Venus moving into Scorpio out of, Libra, just a lot of these aspects are, what we're doing is resolving a dysfunctional relationship between the internal masculine and feminine, how the
Absolutely.
planetary grids have been put into reversal and distortion, and all the different phases that we go through to heal and repair. It's like we're working it out and reconnecting to, the ultimate reconnection with,
Yes.
creation.
Yeah.
Because, something that the system that implanted itself upon this planet that has harvested and siphoned our energies to create artificial trajectories of where we would be, you know, evolving into a new world order, that no longer exists. And I think everybody can agree that that timeline has been dismantled.
Yeah.
Now it's, you know, this process of, healing the depth of our, wounds, and instead of it being taken advantage of, or
Mm. Or co-opted again, you mean?
yeah, now there's more coherence, there's more transparency, there's more willingness to look at the core wounds of what this planetary body has actually gone through. So much has come to the surface
Can
to,
I give a good example of that in the 3D?
yeah,
Is Candace Owens with the assassination, I put that in inverted commas, of course, of Charlie Kirk, because, without getting into it, I think it's really great that everything now gets investigated, reinvestigated, brought up to the surface by we the people. And that is kind of the Mars Mercury conjunction, which we're going to experience exactly on November 12th. But because of the score, I'm sorry, because of the retrograde cycle, it's going to play out until mid-January 2026. And it's going to come back together in a new conjunction in Capricorn, I think, 16th, 17th of January in 2026. The point is, we are going to have to communicate directly, honestly, succinctly, calmly, with passion, knowing our authority, knowing our boundaries, and being deeply authentic, communicating with passion, Mars, um, what truth is. And the more of us communicate that truth, and none of us get it right the whole time, we're always peeling the onion. It started off with Three Eye Atlas. I mean, I don't have the golden crystal ball. No one does. You know, we're constantly evolving to understand our real ontology, our real galactic heritage, our real history. And it's all been kept hidden from us. And I think our lifetime, beyond just the healing, which is Alpha and the Omega, is being open like a child to learn our true history,
Yeah.
who we are. And that's why, you and I have connected over the galactic conversation, not exclusively, but it's a big part of it, because understanding who we are, as to quote Alex Collier, the divine humans are divine galactic royalty. Our DNA is beautiful. I know it's been taken throughout the galaxy. I don't have first-hand experience of it in this body at this time, but I know we are going to uncover so much about our true history in the coming years, and that should be allow us to be excited for that, not be fearful of it, because it is such an awakening to our potential.
Yes. And it's just beautiful to see the micro and macro connection just in our own personal lives, what we are healing from and how this translates into what the collective is healing from, how the hierogamic union and the union of the Christos-Sophia, fell into this sort of Anunnaki
Yeah,
distortion of, that has been the nature of how relationships present themselves. I mean, it's just been installed in the system that there's this level of dysfunction that is now coming up to be healed and to be, addressed with transparency and awareness of all that's taken place, instead of the system determining the future. It's the collective that's creating the outcome
yeah.
with the willingness to heal and recover from what the system has done to us.
100%. I mean, and then to bring it more positively again is, everyone's going through their own version of a psychic upgrade. Now, some people may not be conscious of it or be fighting it, but I mean, I'm witnessing personally, but also with my patients, students, friends, clients, however you want to describe the people I interact with professionally and privately, all the clairs are being activated. Clairsentience, claircognizance, clairaudience, and clairvoyance. And yes, for some, the feelings of confusion are going to grow, especially with this Saturn Neptune conjunction in Pisces. But for most of us, it's going to allow us to dream into the new earth. It doesn't have to be psychosis. For some, sadly, it will be because of, as you mentioned earlier, they just can't hold the field. They can't enter through spirit, through heart. But again, I go back to the compassion, because most of those people are chemically absolutely spent because they've taken 5 𝗷𝒐𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒃 jabs, because they've drunk bulk water instead of structured water, because they eat synthetic food, not organic food. The list is long. And so I long for the technologies, the potential of medbed technology, North Node Pisces, to come in to really help reboot humanity. Because ultimately, in the final analysis, humans have been kept down, as you said, by a very controlling Saturn. And yes, some are braver than others and have had more potential to climb out of the proverbial cave, think the allegory of the cave by Plato. But ultimately, most people just haven't had a chance because they've been so kept down. And I think this is a time when the new technologies are going to come in and are going to really help us. And especially if we do the spiritual work as well, then we really do have Houston liftoff.
I love it. That's so great. Oh my gosh. Well, George,
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
it's always a pleasure to
Really,
talk to
really.
you. Um,
Let's do
Full
it
Moon
again soon.
Wednesday. Yeah,
Yeah.
Wednesday. And Sun um trines the North Node on Saturday. Mercury is going retrograde on Sunday, guys. Lots of interesting things in the forecast. But yeah, I'm glad to have my channel back, and we'll be doing more of these kind of reports. And I'm in the big time healing process. And, sometimes when you're in the healing process and your body's going through all these different kind of changes, and yeah, it's hard to articulate the actual energies that are going on when you're going through it.
Totally.
But yeah, no, I feel it in my body. It's just like, wow. Uh, there's so much emerging and so much to be uh, celebratory about, so much to celebrate.
Well, it's beautiful to keep that frequency of potential of creativity because that's when we really can come into our our abilities by glass half full, not half empty. So well done you for leading the charge here today, Laura.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's just the vastness of the creative imagination is the resources we can pull from to manifest the future that we
Yeah.
desire.
And you have Neptune on the ascendant, I remember that.
Yeah. And anything that like wants to yank you in a direction that you don't want to go, uh you don't that's not the true reality. Saturn is giving us the opportunity to create our own reality
There
because
we go.
Saturn is so much reality and Neptune is so much the dream. And in Aries, create your own reality.
Yeah.
You're in charge of your future.
Let's drill down on another podcast about the Saturn, Neptune, and Aries and what that potential really means, and maybe some practical applications for people to do with sun gazing and different protocols they can do to really activate their own divine inner authority.
For sure.
Mm.
That sounds like a good idea. All right. Well, thank
Okay.
you so much, George.
Lots of love to you. That was fun.